remember what got you. Focus on the fundamentals. We've gone over time and time again. And most important, don't get caught up thinking about winning or losing this game. If you put your effort and concentration into playing to your potential to be the best that you can be, I don't care what the scoreboard says at the end of the game, in my book, we're going to be winners.
This is the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show.
This is a second coming. This is a call to arms. Your finest hour won't be wasted.
The New Hampshire High School Hoop Show is brought to you by the New Hampshire State Liquor Commission's Division of Enforcement.
Right now, it's not about talent. It's about heart. It's about who can go out there and play the hardest, who can go out there and play the smartest. Now, they've been here before. They're not going to give it to us. We got to go out there and we got to take it.
And now, here are your hosts, Pete Terrier.
But I have a question, though. Those 2 foul shots at the end of the game, did you miss them? Or did you miss them?
Not exactly a soup question, is it?
And Dave Haley from NHSportsPage.com.
All season long, we played our game. Right now, you're playing theirs. When we step on the floor, every second that clock is ticking, we are pedal to the metal. We run the ball. We pressure the ball. And most importantly, we control the tempo of the game.
On the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show, Pete Terrier along with Dave Haley, NHSportsPage.com. We do it every Saturday during the basketball season, 7 to 9 a.m. live on the radio. 2 fine stations across New Hampshire, WGIR, AM 610, our flagship station, so to speak. We do the show from our Manchester studios of WGIR. Also, a crystal clear FM Seacoast signal for you, 96.7 The Wave, up till 9 o'clock. Great show Dave lined up this morning, but first of all, good morning. Did you have any issues on the highway? Because there was a little bit of coating of snow when I pulled out of my driveway in the town of Goffstown.
My headlight's out. Last second headlight out, so I was worried the whole time, because, of course, it's dark out, that I was going to get pulled over on the way over here, and you were going to have to do the show 15 minutes on your own, which I would have enjoyed listening to.
Let me give you a word of advice. When you get pulled over, especially when you're on the way to the radio show, when you get pulled over, especially when you're on the way to the radio show, but if you get pulled over in general, give them a, don't you know who I am? It works every time.
They love that.
They love that.
They love that.
Hey, at one point, I got pulled over years back. And I was in Milford, and I used to work for a radio station in Milford a long time ago. And I got pulled over by a cop, and he sees my license, and he says, "Oh, Pete, I listen to you all the time." And he let me go, I swear to God. It actually happened. This was like in the early 90s, but...
This guy last night had no idea who I was, and I wasn't about to inform him.
You don't read the site?
Yeah, really. Is Berlin for real, Dave? Yeah, it didn't happen.
Well, hey, we keep growing the show, and you keep growing the website. It might happen someday. We got a tremendous show lined up for you today. Tim Goodrich, the head coach of the Merrimack Tomahawks, is going to join us talking about an exciting game that his team was involved in last night. And we're going up north. Dave Haley is smiling today.
Way up north.
Way up north to Colebrook. Buddy Trask is going to join us, the head coach of the Colebrook Mohawks. And we got him. He was so happy about coming on the show. He said, heck, I'll drive down to Manchester and do the show live in studio with you.
Something like that, yeah.
So we'll talk with him a little bit, about an hour and 20 minutes from now. Tim Goodrich coming up 15, 20 minutes or so from now. Why don't we get around to the scoreboard? It is brought to you, as always, by the New Hampshire Liquor Commission's Division of Enforcement and the Buyers Beware program, reminding all adults it's against the law to provide alcohol to minors. I don't really have anything, creative this morning, so I'll just go to you for the scores.
I thought you were going to make a Manti Te'o joke when you think you're talking to your Hawaiian girlfriend on the phone, and it's really some Hawaiian guy you're talking to.
If you find out your girlfriend is a hoax, do not provide alcohol to minors. It's not going to make you feel any better, and you might get arrested.
You find out your girlfriend. You guys to my girlfriend in studio?
Oh, yeah. Twitter avatar. All right, so we go around. We'll start in Division I, and a good one to start off with. Spalding 43, Exeter 40. Nick McGregor with a game-winning three-pointer at the buzzer.
Wow.
For Spalding. Spalding 8-1 now. Exeter's playing very well. Jeff Holmes had to put in the notes of the email he sent me, game-winning 3 at the buzzer.
Wow.
So he is a good man because I'm sure it wasn't fun to write. But good win for Spalding. That's kind of a rivalry game. They always play them tough. Bouncing around, Manchester Memorial with a 55-45 win over Keene. Zubel Iracundo with 17 for
All right. Good
Memorial.
job, Dave. You said it.
It only took like 5 weeks to get that. Actually, 2 seasons of that kid, and I can sort of pronounce his name correctly. So, talk to Dave Sontag, the Keene coach. We'll talk about that later. He's doing a good job up there. Moving around, Nashua North lost a 51-52 decision to Londonderry. Jordan Lates had 32 for Nashua North, but Londonderry gets the win in that one. Bouncing around Division 1. Dover 77-38 over Timberlane. Timberlane is having a long year. Probably the game of the night in Division 1, Merrimack with a 61-57 overtime win over Winnicott. Eric Gendron with 22 points for Merrimack, and Ryan Gelati had 26 for Winnicott. That's a big win for Merrimack. We'll talk to Coach Goodrich later. Salem got a win, 63-54 over Manchester West. And Manchester Central behind 18 from Troy Pelletier and 16 from Dawson Dixon came back and beat Pinkerton 70-52, and I want to talk about Pinkerton later. But moving around the scoreboard, big game last night, Newmarket 45-44 over Epping in a game that Jamie Hayes said, thank God Pete Terrier didn't come to this game because he would have thought Division 4 basketball is terrible. But they pulled out a win. Sam Leahy had a nice game for Newmarket. So, game of the night, game of all of New England, really. Guilford 62-52 over Farmington. The Golden Eagles bounced back from their first loss of the season and continued their reign over Division III basketball. They're now 9-1. Woodsville's playing better. They got a 55-44 win over Groveton last night. Upset last night was Goffstown 67, Lebanon 64. Matt Cowles and Dylan Drew for Lebanon did not play. Another huge game for David Hampton in that one. I think he had 29 points. But Goffstown gets a big win on the road. Souhegan behind 31 from Brandon Len. Blows out John Stark 77-50.
That surprised me. Because John Stark's been playing better lately.
Yeah, but I'm not taking them seriously in this thing. I can't.
The Big Two isn't enough for the Generals?
No, it's
Nick
not.
Lloyd and Zach Gratton?
No. Oyster River 59-47 over Hollis Brookline. It's a really good win for Stuart Mitchell's team. Big game for Nick Lazar. He had 31 points last night. I'm going to go see Oyster River Souhegan on Monday night.
That should be a good one.
I'm going to cover that game, yeah. So looking forward to that one. Newport remains undefeated. Andrew Hood is just a house on fire. They beat Monadnock 57-54. Pembroke 55-52 in overtime over Hanover. Why does Hanover play Pembroke?
And that was an overtime game.
Pembroke.
Did Welch play?
He did. He had 14 points.
I wonder if the back's still bothering him.
14 points tells me it probably is, but we'll talk about that later. Upset of the night, Profile 49-41 over Littleton.
Is it an upset when...
Huge upset.
When Profile is 9-1 going into the game or 8-1 going into the game,
yeah.
Littleton's unbeaten. Is that an upset?
It's an upset because Profile beat Lisbon the other night, but Chad Knighton, who's probably one of the 3 top point guards in Division 4, has been out with a knee injury. So they beat him shorthanded the other night, and then Littleton, Trevor Howard just told me they just shot real poorly last night. But 49-41. Give Paul Greenlaw, the coach at Profile, good win for him. Score I missed earlier, Bedford 62, Concord 40. James Caparell with 18.
All right, James Caparell.
There we go, my boy. So Bishop Brady with a 60-50 win over Plymouth. Colin Sullivan had 21 for Plymouth, but Brady's a pretty tough team. Lucas Crudo, 61-45. They beat Somersworth. Somersworth now, Tyler Kretzmar's out with a severe ankle. They're now down 3 starters at Somersworth.
I talked to Greg yesterday, actually communicated via email, but that counts as talking, right? When you're emailing or texting or tweeting or whatever.
I don't communicate with anybody.
He says that Tyler is out for 2 weeks with that ankle.
Yeah, they are just, that poor team. Conant 87, Stevens 56. Conant just... They're the best team in Division 3. Colebrook, Buddy Trask coming in studio. One of my favorite coaches to talk to, so I'm excited about this. 77-41 over Gorham. Merrimack Valley got 20 points from Andrew Alicia. 67-58 over Cole Brown. That's a good win for those guys. And last score of the night, Raymond 81, Prospect Mountain 63. That's a surprise right there.
Prospect Mountain's been tearing it up. Raymond's been up and down. Is that my boy Rich Wingett?
Yeah, that's Rich Wingett.
All right. The reason he's my boy is because he used to coach as an assistant at Riviera under Dave Morissette, who is my boy. And I know Rich Wingett used to play for Alvern.
He went to Keystone College with me.
Yeah,
he was coming in when I was going out, but...
All right, so now he's the head coach at Raymond, and a big win for them.
He's very theatrical on the sidelines. One more score I wanted to mention, Milford with a 54-48 win over Pelham.
A little surprising.
Real surprising. Yeah.
Pelham had a bad week, didn't they? They lost to John Stark earlier, and then they lose to Milford.
This happens to Pelham every year. They struggle to score. They struggle to score points. That's what it is. They don't. Keith Brown only had 5 points, their freshman, who's averaging about 15 a game. He only had 5 points last night, so I almost wonder if something happened. I hope he didn't get hurt or anything, but 5 points is out of character for that.
Even though he's a freshman, maybe he's hit the freshman wall. Is there a freshman wall? And
those kids go all day long. Jesus, when they're that young.
Did you mention the Salem victory over Manchester West?
They did.
So good win for Salem. It's nice to see them getting the win column.
Ruffin's playing again. So.
Yeah, I noticed that. I saw him show up in a couple of box scores. So
they're the same problem as Pelham. They got to score points.
So there's your scoreboard. We'll take a quick time out. We'll come back. We'll get into some of these games that we really want to talk about in more detail. And then we got Tim Goodrich from Merrimack coming up about 10 minutes or so from now. We'll get him on the phone, talk about that exciting overtime win at home. Hey, don't look now, but Merrimack's 6-3.
6-3, they're right there. I saw that this morning. You see the standings this morning on NHSportspage.com. I updated them, but yeah, they're right there now.
Quick timeout. We'll come back, get into it. It is the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show. Pete Terrier, along with Dave Haley, NHSportsPage.com. Don't forget, we're filming the show. John Cassidy from NHSportsPage.com is in the house. He's got the camera on us. We're looking good. You can go up on the website tomorrow. Check out the video cast of the show. Adam Furious, our fine producer. We'll be back with more of the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show after these. WGIR AM 610 96.7 The Wave. Here's the difference between Dave Haley and me, Pete Terrier. As we get back from the breaks, the tunes that Adam Furious plays, I get all excited about a little party rock by LMFAO. Any clue what that means? Don't say it on the radio, by the way.
I know exactly what it means. I won't say it on the radio.
Laughing my bloop.
You don't like that. I love it. It just makes me... But I also like the hair metal like you do.
What's wrong with Headed for a Heartbreak by Winger? Get everybody a little romantic here in the morning.
You can't get into that type of music, Dave?
Yeah.
No?
It depends where I am.
Yeah, okay.
Not in a studio.
If you're jamming at a club with the ladies,
I'm doing that.
It works out just fine.
I think those days are happily behind me. I've been there, though, unfortunately.
It is the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show, not the New Hampshire High School Hip Hop Show. Pete Terrier, Dave Haley.
It's a very low-rated show.
Talk a little Division I hoops right now as you look at the standings on NHSportsPage.com, completely updated. You got two teams undefeated in Division I, Manchester Central, Trinity. They will show down later in February. I think it's like the last Tuesday in February.
I'll be there.
I think it's February 26th.
I'm going to do that game with John. You should come too. It might be the one game this year besides UNH, so we're both there.
We're both in the gym at the same time at one time.
Now, that's a game I annually go to. I love that game.
That's going to be a great game. Looking forward to it. Imagine if both teams were undefeated going into the game. I don't see that happening. I think there's going to be a slip up either way by one of those two teams. But when you look down the standings, I mean, BG 8-1. I'm going to see them on Tuesday night against Trinity. Okay, I forget who they're playing. I knew they were playing another top team, but I'm going to go down to the Caligula Dome. Right? Yeah, at BG. Yeah. I'm guessing that's a 6:30 start at BG. They usually do that during the week. You got Nashua South at 8-1. You got Spalding at 8-1. The buzzer beater last night by Nick McGregor over Exeter. Memorial at 7-2. That's a very good 7-2 team.
Oh yeah.
Merrimack 6-3. We'll talk to Coach Goodrich in a few minutes from now. Dover. Alvern. I mean, stop me when there's a team that doesn't deserve to be mentioned here in the top 8 or 9 of Division I.
Bedford,
it's a good top half of the division.
I think there's a drop between Winnicott and Londonderry. I think that's where your drop is. Winnicott, I wrote about this. It's the Bill Parcells you are what your record says you are, and absolutely. But Winnicott at 4-5, they could easily be 7-2.
I agree.
I mean, they lost on buzzer beater, they've lost in overtime, and they were beating BG the entire night, and BG came back. So,
and they were beating Merrimack most of the night last night too. That was kind of like a back and forth game, but they really were on top most of that game. We'll talk about that game in more detail with Coach Goodrich in a few, but that's a good basketball team. Like you said, you get to that Mac Plaque matchup there. Londonderry 3-5, Pinkerton 2-6, and I know you got questions about Pinkerton.
Well, I don't. How is Pinkerton? How can you be How can you be 2-6 when you're Pinkerton? You have 3,000 students. You've got 5 buildings over there. I don't understand. I saw them opening night. They're huge. I mean, they're literally like 6'6", 6'7", 6'5", 6'6", and maybe that's the problem. Maybe they don't have enough. They're
all playing football and lacrosse. How many kids do you see?
Oh, but they got athletes on that team.
But I mean, how many kids do you see that play both football and basketball? I don't know much about lacrosse, so I'm going to stay out of that conversation. But do you see a lot of Pinkerton football players playing basketball? You see it with the other schools, BG, Exeter, Central. I mean, a lot of these schools,
they got
Trinity.
Enough of them. 3,000 kids. I mean, 2-6. I mean, and if you look, I'm looking at the site right now. They're averaging 54 points a game, and they're allowing 58. So I mean, it's not like they're getting crushed every night, but. They lost to Keene. They lost opening night to Winnicott, obviously. And again, they played Central last night. They pretty much got buried. They were up early, and then Pelletier played great in the second half, and Central buried them. But it's just surprising. I mean, God, they got so many kids over there. Seriously,
is it time to give a call to Pete Rosinski and ask him, hey, what's up?
I'm sure he'd love to hear from me right now.
How are you guys 2-6?
I don't understand it.
Zach Matthew, Coach Rosinski, is not walking through that door. Ben Prue is not walking through that door.
Zach Matthew, a preseason All-American in baseball, by the way. They have Merrimack next, okay? So right on the theme of the morning. And then they got Londonderry at home. Then they go at West, at North. So, they've got a chance to turn it around. And then after that's BG, Bedford, Memorial. So, but 2-6 is just, I don't know. It's hard to accept with Pinkerton. I mean,
well, let's look at it this way, okay? You look at the bottom of the D1 standings, and then you got Timberlane. They are winless on the season, 0-10.
Yeah.
Really no hope. I mean, you talk about differential. They're giving up about 70 a game and scoring just under 44. They're getting crushed every single game. I mean, they've had maybe one close game. It was against Nashua North, and they lost 52-50. Other than that, they're just getting blown out. There's no hope. They haven't won in 3 seasons. The Timberlane Owls.
They're a big wrestling school, I guess. I talked to somebody who went there. No, I mean...
how come that works for Timberlane, but then when I say, Pinkerton's a football school...
Because Pinkerton has twice as many kids. Okay, so Winnicott beat Pinkerton, and Winnicott is better than Pinkerton. Winnicott has like 1,400 students. Pinkerton has like 3,300. When the NHIAA gives you your press pass, they give you the book, the media guide, and it has the enrollment of every school. I was blown away a couple years ago. I said, I can't believe Pinkerton. I mean, they literally have twice as many kids as Salem does. I mean, 3,300 kids. It's something like that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. But look at the bottom of the standings. How about Manchester West? 1-7.
Yeah, but I mean, that thing's falling apart.
Somebody on the forum predicted at the beginning of the year that West wouldn't make it. It's probably G&G. I can't remember. But they...
you talk the New Hampshire Sports Forum?
Yes.
Check this out. If you haven't checked it out, nhsportsforum.com.
It's
you
right
can
on
get
our
a link
site.
Off of nhsportspage.com. You'll see NH Sports Forum.
Boy, a lot of coaches read that, I find. They make
There's
comments.
a lot of interesting conversations on that. I take part. I'm on there. I see you on there. I noticed I kind of doubled up something that you talked about. I was promoting that Buddy Trask and Goodrich were going to be on the show, and then I read, you had already been on there the day
good,
before.
Though. No, it's great. It's a great group. You get a lot of information, and there's some real good information on there. But somebody on that forum at the beginning of the year, I give them credit. They said West will not make the playoffs this year, and I think you're absolutely right. It does look like it's falling apart over there. I want to say real quick because I mentioned it earlier. I talked to Dave Sontag, the coach of Keene. We finally caught up with each other. We talked for about 10-15 minutes yesterday. I said, how are things going up there with the things on the court and off the court? We all know the history up there. He's doing great. He's coaching his kids, and he's not letting anything else be a distraction. He loves the kids, said they're working hard, and really their goal is to get in the tournament and then, be a pain in someone's butt in the first round, which they absolutely can. Of course, if they get in, they're going to have to go on the road, but they're playing teams tough. They're not getting blown out every night, and they're competing every night. And if they can leave him alone up there, I'm speaking to the people at Keene right now, leave this guy alone and let him stay there. He's a young guy who was an all-conference player at Keene State. He knows what he's doing. He's energetic. He's a guy who can kind of get the young kids playing at the lower levels and build a program there. Let somebody stay at Keene and build it into something. Bill Johnson didn't get the opportunity to do it. Let this guy do his job, please. Just leave him alone. This is my soapbox to the people of Keene. Because it's ridiculous. They have something like 6 coaches in the last 6 years or something. It's ridiculous.
Well, I think that they're better than their record indicates. I mean, you look at them, you look at Exeter, both of them 2-7.
Exeter's definitely way better.
Both teams are better.
Exeter's been outscored by an average of 2 points a game, and they're 2-7.
And they play that way. And when we had Holmes on. That's right. We had Holmes on
after the tournament.
That's right. We had Holmes on, and they made it to the finals of the Queen City Invitational Holiday Tournament. That's a pretty good basketball team. They're just tough luck.
You know what I hear about Exeter from people who know the program? The 2 of the best players in that program are freshmen.
Well, so there was a freshman.
His son.
Yeah, there was a fresh. Yeah, but he's not even on the varsity. They had a freshman.
Sweat.
Yeah.
I'll get his name.
He was playing. I have it here. In the I got my
Ben Sweat.
Yeah, Ben Sweat, number 32, 6 foot tall guy.
Averages 5.5 points a game. Thank you, New Hampshire Sports Page. But yeah, they got a nice little future there, and I think Jeff is a really good coach, and I think he's doing a really nice job with these guys. They're a tough game every night for anybody in that division.
Well, I know there's still half of the season left to go. I mean, you got you got Exeter, Keene, and North all 2-7. So that's really the line that one of those 3 teams is probably not going to make the playoffs because 16 teams get in. So that leaves 4 teams on the outside looking in a 20-team D1.
Yeah, right now they're all tied. They would be in that 16th spot.
Well, interestingly enough, I looked at the schedule. Keene and North don't play each other the rest of the way,
really?
So there won't be any head-to-head determination there. So if it's a 3-way tie, that might help the cause a little bit for all of those teams. But Exeter plays at Keene the regular season finale.
Jeff Holmes' alma mater.
If that thing goes, isn't that crazy? Yeah. If it goes down to it, and it's Exeter and Keene, and the winner gets in, and the loser goes home.
I expect Exeter to get a few more W's. Yeah.
I would think so.
Yeah.
All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back, and we'll continue to talk about Division I. We got Tim Goodrich, head coach of the Merrimack Tomahawks. Exciting win last night at the H. Dana Taylor Gymnasium in Merrimack. It was an overtime game, and back and forth, and it seemed like Winnicott was going to blow them out of the building early on. Merrimack didn't go away, and it was back and forth like that the entire game. We'll talk to Coach Goodrich about the win last night against Winnicott, and what do you know? The defending champs are 6-3. It is the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show. WGIR AM 610 and 96.7 The Wave.
Can easily understand.
Back here on the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show. We do it Saturday mornings, 7 to 9 a.m., live on the radio. Couple of stations for you, WGIR AM 610 in and around Manchester, Nashua, Concord. We'll include Merrimack in there as well. Also got a Seacoast signal for you Winnicott fans. Good game last night in Merrimack between the Tomahawks and the Warriors. Won in OT by the defending Division I champs, 61-57. And joining us on the phone line now to talk about that win is the head coach of Merrimack. Hey, Coach Pete. You got me now, Coach?
Star.
I don't think
Phone just went dead.
I don't think we got him anymore, so we're going to put him on hold, and I just dropped him at him, so why don't you try and give him a call back, and we'll see what's going on. I had all that build-up, Dave, and nothing.
Boy, you really sold it, too.
I sold it, didn't I? That was going to be good.
Blame it on Adam Furious.
Nah, I don't know what the heck happened there.
Doesn't seem like it's his fault.
But he was concerned. You could hear the concern in Coach. You could hear the concern in Coach Goodrich's voice, couldn't you?
I love technical difficulties.
He really wanted to come on.
Just picture the cat hanging from the tree limb, hanging there.
Let's try this again. Take 2. Coach Tim Goodrich, are you there? Are you there, Coach?
The same thing happened again.
All right, he's got nothing here. He's got nothing. So we'll try and we're gonna do. All right, he's not there. We got Buzz Harvey on the line.
Let's talk. Let's really quick to say what we talked about just off the air. We kind of mentioned Tyler Livingston.
Yeah,
hadn't been doing enough for that team early in the season, and he's played terrific.
Oh, he's been tearing it up since then.
He's been tearing it up the last few weeks. I'm sure it has zero to do with you and I, but give that kid a lot of credit for how well he's playing.
Well, you know, Coach Guerin, you talk to him quite a bit. I don't know if he listens to the show or not, but maybe he caught wind of that.
Maybe he did, but whatever.
And you know what else? I noticed something else. Your boy Alec Yosh has started to heat up a little bit.
He had a game the other night, didn't he?
Yeah, no, he had a good game, I think, in against Nashua South as well. So we'll try this one more time. Is the third time a charm? Coach, do we
Are you there?
I'm there. Are you there? That's the question.
I don't know. Is your phone or mine? One of you. How are you guys doing today?
Good. How are you? Sorry about that, Coach.
Hey, no big deal.
I mean, we had this great build-up talking about what a great game it was last night. They jumped out on you. You guys came storming back. They jumped out on you to start the second half. You guys came storming back, and then they got up ahead on you again in the fourth quarter. You guys came storming back, and you end up winning it in overtime, 61-57.
Yeah, we were very fortunate last night. You know, it was a great high school basketball game, just like almost every game this year seems to be. You know, every team is right in it till the end, and you know, we're really pretty pleased here in Merrimack to be fortunate enough to be 6-3. And last night, you know, they really jumped all over us. They went up like 22-11. We were really struggling with their press, and it almost looked like we didn't go over any of that stuff, you know. And then the kids finally just kind of figured it out a little bit, and we really defended really well in the second quarter and got back in the game. And then the third quarter, we came out and just kind of played like we played in the first quarter. And then they just really, you know, blue-collared it up and did some good defense at the end. We were a bit fortunate enough to pull out a victory.
Two straight overtime wins for you, Coach, right?
Yeah, the other one was double overtime against Exeter. That, you know, it's been an overtime week for us. Instead of the Tomahawks, you can call us the overtime boys or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and you beat Dover in a close game, and you know, I was just thinking, obviously watching you guys win the championship last year, and coming into this season, most people looked at you guys as it's Eric Gendron and some other guys too. But if we talk about, you know, the personality of this team, because they're proving, and listen, you only lost in the last 5 games is a 5-point loss to arguably the best team in the state in Manchester Central. So, just curious as what you feel like the personality is of this team right now.
Well, they're kind of coming together. It's like a big puzzle at the start of the year, and who was going to step up, who wasn't. You know, like you said, we lost like 8 seniors. Flores went to prep school, so it's really Gendron's team, and he's a great leader, great kid. You know, 3.95 grade point average. Thank God he's only a junior. We get him for another year, but he's just a really great leader. And then all the other kids have just got to figure out their roles, and you know, and we keep talking about that every day. You know, like if you really can't shoot the 3, what are you shooting the 3 for? You know, or your strength is rebounding, so get us some rebounds, and that's what we're trying to put together. That each kid, you know, figures out his role, and then from there, hopefully we'll be a fairly competitive basketball team down the stretch. That's
Tim Goodrich, head coach of the Merrimack Tomahawks, with us. His team victorious last night in overtime, working extra to beat Winnicott 61-57. You mentioned Eric Gendron, 22 points to lead the way last night. Another kid who stepped up and has been scoring the ball more and handling the ball more for you lately. Austin Franzen, the sophomore who transferred from Bishop Girton, I guess lives in Merrimack, so moved back. It's kind of nice to see him actually playing for the hometown school instead of going someplace else, but he's a pretty good player, Austin Franzen.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. He's a small little guy. He's got to get stronger, which he will. I mean, he's young. He scored 15 points last night, but then on the other side, the senior guard kind of hurt him. He had like 24 points, but that's something that he's going to figure out and learn and get better and stronger. And we're really pleased with him. He's a nice young man, very quiet, and he's fitting in really well. And we're really happy to have him here in Merrimack.
Did Coach? I know you guys. Were you guys in the BST Summer League last year too?
Yes.
Okay. Does that help you guys? I know you've been in that most summers, but did that help you guys a little bit knowing? Because I think most people knew that Dimitri Flores was probably going to go off to prep. He went to Vermont Academy, and did it kind of help you to kind of have the summer to be able to? And I know you played during the fall as well, and say, all right, listen, let's kind of come together as a group. He's not going to be here. We'll be fine without him. But does that kind of help, like coming into December where you've already played a bunch of games without him?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I mean, we played Eric Gendron really played on that elite team, and he wasn't around much during the summer, so these other kids had to learn and try to figure it out too, you know. And anytime you get your kids together and play basketball, it's going to help you in down the stretch, you know. And I think these, you know, we're going to be okay here in Merrimack. You know, this year is, you know, I considered a year to get through, and hopefully we can knock somebody off. But you know, our younger kids are really coming around, and I think we're going to be a team to reckon with the years to come.
Coach, you were on the staff of those previous Merrimack championship teams.
Yeah, I was on the staff in 03 with Coach Simoes, and then I coached in 04. That was my first year.
All right, and you guys had some players coming back, obviously, from that 03 championship heading into 04, so you kind of probably expected to be in the mix. Now, this year, as you mentioned, 8 seniors left. You had Dimitri, your best player, transfer to prep school. Was that different when you were thinking about going into that 2004 season as champs compared to this year? Because I'm sure the expectations were way, way, way different.
Well, in 2004, we had a heck of a team coming back. I mean, Corey Hassan was only a junior at that time. I mean, and yeah, we had huge expectations then, and rightfully so. We were a very talented basketball team with a lot of good players in 04. Even 05, we went undefeated, and Dover upset us in the semifinals. That was a really great bunch of kids. And I guess your question is do we expect to go to the championship this year? Anything can happen in this game. Are we? I go in there every day and coach, and you got to set goals, and that's our goal to get to the championship, get to Durham. Our first thing is make the playoffs, try to get a home game. Then you upset a couple teams, do whatever you got to do, and if you get to Durham, anything can happen. And these kids are really starting to believe in themselves, and I wouldn't say never.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I was looking at the standings, and Pete and I, do this every Saturday where we kind of go through what we think, and it's all, maybe there's after the top 11, it kind of drops a bit. But I remember last year when you guys won it as a 6 seed. I remember
7 seed.
7 seed.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember talking to you at Durham after the game, and you said, we didn't really lose when we had Dimitri Flores on the floor. I mean, we're pretty good. And, I mean, what are you looking at the landscape now, and there's still a half a season to go, but, I mean, you look at it now, it really looks like the same sort of thing could absolutely happen. I mean, I think today, Manchester Memorial would be a 6 seed. You want to play those guys? I mean, what are your thoughts? Pete and I are always talking about it. I'd love to hear what you think about how D1 looks at this point.
Well, I think you're 100% right. I really think the upper teams, like your Centrals and Trinities and Spaldings, are really, really good basketball teams. But I don't think like Exeter's and Merrimac's and Winniconnets are too far behind, So I just think that on any given night, if you go and you play some pretty good D, get a few breaks, hit some shots, you're going to be okay. And I wouldn't be surprised if you had a 14 seed beat a 3 or something this year, and then anything could happen, and it's just that kind of it's where it's at right now. And I heard you guys talking before about Pinkerton. I mean, that's a really talented team. I wouldn't be surprised if Pinkerton went to Durham.
Coach, I want to ask you, and I know you want to focus on this year and what lays ahead, but for radio purposes only, will you play along with us here? Last year, you guys, as we said, with a 7 seed, you were looking at a sure trip down to Salem for that quarterfinal round of the playoffs, and the news broke out. I remember I was at your game against Bishop Girton, which was a tough ball game.
No doubt about it.
I think that went to overtime. But the word came out that Dover, the 15 seed, upset Salem. I remember how happy I was when I saw the Baltimore Ravens knock off the Denver Broncos, setting up a potential AFC Championship game at home for the Patriots last week. We all know how that worked out, but what was going through your head that night? Like, thank you? Did you call up Mike Romps and said, thank you, I owe you a big hug or something?
Not
what
really,
were you
I'll
thinking?
be honest with you. I mean, Dover and Merrimack have had a long tough battles over the years. I mean, like I said, we were 22-0, undefeated, semifinal team. I think it was like 05, and Dover beat us in the semifinals. I mean, they're a really well-coached, good bunch of kids, and and quite honestly, we had beaten Salem in the regular season, and we were just happy that we got by BG, and we would have played anybody. And I don't think we were like ecstatic or anything like that we had to play Dover, because that was no easy out neither. A lot of people made it like it was an easy out, but they were pretty good,
Well, Coach, we appreciate the time. Let's see if you guys can keep that overtime streak going on Tuesday.
We'll take overtime every night as long as we get a W at the end of it.
I'm looking at the schedule, though. It's like,
we got a brutal one coming. We played 7 out of our first 9 games at home. Now we're on the road forever.
Pinkerton on the road, BG on the road. That's a huge rivalry for BG and Merrimack.
Yeah, it'll be a big night Friday night.
Then you got Trinity, West. That's a W. I'll mark that down for you.
Oh, okay.
Got to go out to Keene. They still got to play Memorial, Spalding, North.
Oh, yeah, we got a long ways to go, I mean, we're every night's important. We'll just, we're shooting to try to get a home game, see what happens.
All right, Coach. Thanks so much for the time, and we'll see you down the line on a court near you.
Yeah, thank you for your time. Have a good day.
All right, Coach.
Thanks, bye.
Tim Goodrich, head coach of the Merrimack Tomahawks, one of the better guys. You know, all the coaches. I mean, remember Dave Keefe was on with us last week. Oh, I'm going to go down and see my buddy Tim Goodrich. Everybody loves Tim Goodrich.
Yeah. He's great. He, by the way, he mentioned taking over for Coach Simoes.
Yeah,
my 5th grade gym teacher.
Was Al Simoes?
Taught me at Guilford how to play basketball.
Really?
Al Simoes. There you go. Great guy. Yep.
Those Merrimack teams. I remember a game that I saw. This was like, I think it was the first year for Nashua North. They had Troy Bowen. Fitzpatrick was coaching Nashua North that year. And Merrimack came to Nashua North with Corey Hassan. And Hassan, I think, scored 50 or 51 in that game.
He's ridiculous. Yeah.
I mean, that was just a crazy atmosphere and a crazy time. And those were some real good Merrimack teams. I think those Merrimack teams, there's a Austin Denton that played on those championship teams, or at least one of them. There's a kid named Mitchell Denton. Yeah. I assume that's a little brother, maybe a cousin. Who knows? We should have asked Coach Goody about that. But that's a good program, and they're 6-3, and no one wants to play them. You said no one wants to play Memorial. I don't think anybody wants to play Merrimack.
No, absolutely. And he's absolutely right when he says there could be another. I mean, listen, we saw 15-2, as you talked about. It was good to reference that last year. And remember, that was a Dover team with Mike LeBlanc, who just played on ESPN last weekend for New Hampton. And, I mean, that was a 15 seed. I mean, and it could be the same thing. Again, I can't figure out how Pinkerton's 2-6. That doesn't mean Pinkerton's going to finish 4-14. I'm just, Exeter, is playing everybody. He beat Exeter in double overtime. He's right. I mean, Keene's playing everybody tough. The bottom down there is not, Exeter went last year to Trinity, right? Wasn't Trinity the top seed? And Exeter hung in there like the whole night at Trinity.
Exeter beat Trinity in a 14-3 game 2 or 3 years ago.
It was Madall's junior year, David Madall's junior year.
Yeah, but then Madall ended up at Memorial after that.
Last year with Matt Barr, they went there, and Jeff Holmes slowed it down. I think they lost by like 10, and Dave Keefe he told me he was terrified in the second half. Yeah. I mean, so it just... Division One, maybe more so than any of the other divisions, because off the top of my head, no, I'll say it's the only division where I think you really legitimately going to see like a really good game between the 3 and the 14 seed. Because honestly, in the other divisions, you're not. No. You're going to see 30, 40-point games.
No. And are they doing that crazy tournament format in Division 3 this year? Because there's so many teams, like a million teams in Division 3.
I refuse to. I pride myself in previewing every single playoff game for the last 6 years. I refused. And if you're out of the top 16, I don't want it. But I heard Division 3, and Buddy Trask will actually know this because he's on the coaches committee, but I think it's 20. But they also have, like, remember Lauren Lucas was talking about it?
It's like
the BCS. They got like 32 teams in there.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right, we'll take a timeout, come back, and head towards the top of the hour. We'll kind of go around a little bit. I want to dip down one division to Division 2, talk about some of the games that went on, some of the surprises from last night in New Hampshire high school basketball. It is the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show, WGIR AM 610 and 96.7 The Wave. Back here on the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show, Pete Terrier, along with Dave Haley, NHSportsPage.com. Don't play none of this dance music stuff. He wants hair metal and more hair metal for you.
Turn it up.
Special guest in studio, the head coach and the athletic director at Colebrook Academy in our North Country. The Mohawks improving to 7-4 on the season last night with a 77-41 win over the Gorham Huskies. Buddy Trask, thanks for coming down and thanks for coming in studio, Coach.
Well, it's very nice to be here.
Coach, I got to ask you, and before we get into the basketball, it's been so cold over the past few days, a little bit warmer yesterday. What was the lowest mercury reading you saw in Colebrook over this past week?
Well, rumor has it, because I hate to look at the thermometer, but the rumor has it was 27 below.
Oh, what? Now, did they have like delays at school at all this week because of the buses? They just can't warm up?
No.
No?
We don't delay, and we don't have snow days. Thank God.
I told you this is why the northern team. Now, I said this to Jamie Hayes when he was on. And I'll make the statement, and you tell me if you agree or disagree. It'd be interesting to hear your answer to this one. But there seems to be a perception of, from northern coaches, And history tells you Northern teams have won, 15 out of 17 of the last Class S / Division IV titles. That the Northern teams, when they get to the big game in the quarterfinal and semifinal rounds, are mentally tougher. The kids are more, they're more physical than the Southern kids. And when I say Southern, I mean there's no place Southern in New Hampshire. I'm talking Moultonboro, Newmarket, Epping, and so forth. That those Northern kids are tougher mentally. They put up with more. They're in minus 27-degree weather all winter. What are your thoughts on that statement? And I've heard it a lot.
Well, I think it used to be that way. I really do. Back in the heydays of the late 90s and the early 2000s. Over the last 2 or 3 years, especially the new markets of the world and, Dairyfield and those schools have come along. And quite frankly, our level of basketball has probably gone down a little bit.
Up north of the whole division?
Especially up north.
Yeah.
We had very solid teams for years, and now, just take my team, the last 3 or 4 years, we have 2 or 3 players and we fill in around, and that's been good enough, whereas 10 years ago that wouldn't have been anywhere near good enough. And I kind of see that now, up north. All these teams, the Lisbons have 2 players, and they fill in around very nicely. Lisbon has Littleton has the most athletic team, but essentially they're a 2-player basketball team right now. We're a 2-player basketball team right now. And as I said, 10 years ago, you had 4 or 5 players, and
when you and I talk in the preseason, and I had the same conversations with Trevor or Paul Greenlaw or I can't get Mark Collins on the phone, but we do email a little bit. I'm happy to do that at Groveton. But, you look at Dairyfield and Newmarket. They're in the BST League. So those guys are playing. I think Newmarket played Merrimack last summer. They played Nashville. They played Merrimack tough. And, Epping has the ability where they can scrimmage Portsmouth. They can scrimmage Winnicott and so forth. And even if they're getting their brains beat in a little, they're still playing against elite talent, in the state. When I talk to you guys up north, you really have to. Now I know Berlin, which is a drive, but Berlin has a really good summer league, and Don Picard plays in that, and the kids play in it, and the alumni play. So it's really good. It's like a men's league that those kids all play in. But with you guys, how are you able to do it during the summer? And going forward, is it going to continue to be a disadvantage for you guys when you can sit there and say, wow, Newmarket's playing Merrimack tonight, and I got 3 kids on the gym, working on, skills alone?
Well, and that's what we do. We don't get a chance to play a lot of people during the summer. We could go. Sam has asked us to join. They have a little league down there in Lisbon and stuff, but it's too far.
Yeah. How far is that drive?
It's an hour and a half. That's a short one. So.
How far was your drive to Manchester today from Colebrook?
Well, Manchester's about 255. I got them all down pat. Concord's 240. Manchester's 255. From Gorham last night, it was a little over 2 hours. So.
And I don't envy you guys.
No,
I really don't.
And
envy
you look
guys.
at a Colebrook-Gorham game, and you assume that it's not that bad of a drive. But I go to Pittsburgh every Columbus Day weekend with my family. We stay up in Pittsburgh, and so I remember I told Coach Strassler, I think, my daughter's birthday is the October 26th, so we had a little family birthday party for her, and I forgot to get a cake, and I was in Pittsburgh. I had to drive to Colebrook just to get a cake because they didn't even have a place in Pittsburgh, and it was like a 40-minute drive. So I did about an hour and 20 minutes round trip just to get a birthday cake.
Yeah, our 2 trips now, we have, we used to have like 4 short ones. Now it's down to 2 because of the people we play. We go to Canaan, which is 10 minutes. We go to Groveton, 30. Everything else is hour and a half to an hour 40, hour 45.
Yeah.
So. Coach Buddy Trask from Colebrook is in studio with us on the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show, also filming the show, and we'll post it up on nhsportspage.com tomorrow. If you listen to the show or you watched it on the website, you hear the intro with the Norman Dale Hoosiers clip that we use from that tremendous movie. And when I think of a school like yours, I kind of think of Hoosiers. Not to that so small extent, but your school has an enrollment of about $150 or something like that.
Yeah, right around there, a little less probably.
And how many boys? What's the split, boys, girls?
Oh, it's probably even. It's a little one way or the other, but yeah, we've lost about 50 kids out of the high school here over the last 7-8 years. You know, you had the Grove to Mill closing and Ethan Allen closing, and now the Balsams isn't open, so things are kind of tough up there right now.
Now, what are tryouts like? I mean, how many kids do you have for tryout? I mean, everybody's pretty much making it.
Yeah, we've been good here. I get about 18 kids a year, and we lost one, so we're at 17. So you know, everybody makes it. I don't dress more than 15 a game, but we have JVs too, and a lot of the kids swing both ways, and so we've been lucky in that respect. You know, the kids still come.
Is there a rule? I think I read something like this. May have been Jim Fennell and the union leader about, you know, a certain amount of freshmen can play in Division IV. I'm not freshmen, eighth graders. And off air, you guys were kind of talking about eighth graders. Is that something that's been put in to kind of help some of these programs?
Yeah,
that
I mean,
don't
we
have
have
the numbers?
to petition the NHIAA, and if you've got less than 12, you can petition the varsity. And then it's 24 for the combination of the two. So, you know, you can get your eighth graders on. And when we only have one gym, you know, and I have elementary, junior high, JV, and varsity, you don't get much time, you know. So we encourage, we encourage our eighth graders to at least play JV so that they're touching a basketball every day, because, you know, once the season gets going, there's not a whole lot of time, you know, to practice in there. So that's another unique thing going on, you know. I mean, a lot of our kids, our elementary sixth graders play on the junior high team, you know, so they're playing on both. Our junior high kids play on the JV team, and if we get low numbers, which hasn't happened in a while in basketball, they could play varsity. But, you know, you do have schools that have to have eighth graders play.
Who's the kid? I can't remember his first name. He was good. His last name was Hicks. 2 years ago, he's a really good rebounder for you.
Yep.
What was his first name?
Drew Hicks. Andrew.
I almost stumped you. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you had told me, like, he had worked the year before. Like, he had to work for, you know, whatever, for his dad, or he had to work in general up there. And you said, yeah, I got this kid coming in, and he didn't play last year because he had to work a job, and now he's coming in. And then the kid ended up being, like, an all-state, like, I think his honor-mental all-state level player for you. Does that happen a lot, where you got a kid and you kind of see him play maybe pickup ball and you say, oh, I wish I had that kid, but he's got a job and he's got to work?
Well, I mean, in Drew's case, he had been exposed to playing, so he actually had a shot. Because most kids in basketball, yeah, you can pick up a kid, and sometimes you see that, but basketball is a hard game to play, and if you can't shoot the basketball, then, you know.
Yeah.
And he could, so he kind of didn't play before, and then all of a sudden his senior year he's playing, and he ended up doing a lot for us.
Oh, yeah.
But that's very rare.
I remember years ago, and it's probably like 15 years. Time flies. But Kevin Gray wrote a really good article for the Union Leader about, he went up to Pittsburgh, maybe a long time ago, but he went to Pittsburgh for a day, and he basically, you know, talked about how this kid was the point guard on the basketball team. Then he had to be in the theater because they had a play, and they only had, you know, I think they've got like 15 boys or something at school, something ridiculous. But you know, and then they worked a job, and you know, they kind of like had to balance. But like the school kind of said, look, we need you to do multiple things, you know. And these kids, you know, I don't think, you know, Manchester is, you know, we're in Manchester, I don't think you can relate to that, obviously, you know what I mean, because there's so many kids and there's so much room for everybody to do their own thing. Up north, I mean, you know, do you ever find other kids pressuring a kid to play on the team who maybe doesn't want to? They say, come on, man, we need you.
Well, we do that, and all our coaches up there, you know, encourage them to play, because, I mean, we have X amount of athletes, you know, and you know, our kids have to play. Sometimes they don't like the sport, but they have to play the sport because they need them for the sport that they like, you know. So the majority of our kids, probably 75% of our kids on a basketball team, play all three sports.
We got Buddy Trask from Colebrook Academy in studio with us, talking a little D4 hoops, talking about North Country hoops. I do want to ask you about a couple of your players that have been leading the way for you so far this year. Jordan Bedard, one of the top scorers in D4, along with Dylan Leach. You guys are high-octane type of offense. I mean, 77 points in the win. You had 85 points earlier this week in the win against Linwood. What's the style of play that a Buddy Trask team likes to play? Is it up and down the floor and trying to really outscore other people?
Well, that's what we'd like to do. We've had some hard times with that this year at times, but we do like to get out and press and play full court. Can we do that this year? We can't, because I got some bigger kids and just some kids that can't do that style. But that's what our JVs are playing right now. We're running and pressing, and that's what we'll be doing next year. But we have to fit to what we have, and we still like to play man, and it's getting better. We had a really good defensive game last night. But it all revolves around our two big kids right now, and unfortunately they have to handle the ball a lot too, because one of our starting guards has been out for a while, and but they're coping with it. And Leach had a 15-point, 16 rebound, 9 assist game last night, and we'll go how he goes and how Jordan goes, and there have been some rough patches this year, but we had a little talk the other day, and they seem to be responding a little bit. So we'll see how it goes. You're only as good as the next game you play. So, and believe me, we can be one way and we can be the other. We can be very good and very ugly. That's been our story so far.
And you guys playing again next Wednesday?
Yeah.
Against Woodsville. That's a home game for you at Colebrook Academy. So look ahead to that one. We're going to come back, take a quick timeout, and more in studio with Buddy Trask of Colebrook. Try and figure out, doing the math, 500 wins. They play 18, 20 games a season when you count playoffs and stuff like that. Trying to figure out exactly how long he's been the coach.
Are you trying to figure out how old he is?
No. I just want to know. I just want to know how long he's been coaching at Colebrook.
He's been coaching since he was 5.
We'll get the answer to that question when we return on the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show. Pete Terrier, Dave Haley from NHSportsPage.com. It's on WGIR AM 610 and 96.7 The Wave.
There we go.
More like it, Dave?
There we go.
A little Cinderella Gypsy Road.
Coming to Tom Kiefer, coming to Manchester soon. I will be there. I'm trying to get Adam Fierce to go with me, too.
Coach Buddy Trask from Colebrook Academy is with us. His team victorious last night against the Gorham Huskies, 77-41, improving their record to 7-4 on the season. You smiled when you heard Dave reading the score about Littleton's loss to Profile last night, and you've played both of those teams really tough. You played 2 games already against Littleton. You lost in overtime in your season opener by 2, and then you lost in overtime again to them earlier this month by 9, 71-62, and you have handed Profile their only loss of the season so far. So those two teams, is it a matter of the schedule that they sit so far ahead of you in the standings? I mean, 7-4, and those guys are both one-loss teams at this point, Coach?
I wasn't smiling, taking great happiness in Trevor losing. I was just a little shocked, quite frankly. That I didn't think, because when we played Profile, that was early in the year, and they had been missing one kid, and the Weeks kid, and we did a pretty good job on his scorer that night, and we held him down, and we ended up winning by a lot. The 2 Littleton games were back and forth, up and down, and we had leads and had chances to win, and we had the ball at the end of the game down there, tied with a chance to win in regulation, and we didn't do it. They're a little better than we are. Profile, I don't know. I mean, we beat them the first time. We get them in a couple weeks at our place. It all depends on which team shows up. I'm sure Paul would say the same thing. It's kind of hard. Excuse me. It's kind of hard to say. I think we're all pretty close. And Profile, people talk about Profile schedule so far because they haven't had a lot of tough games, and but Paul's doing a good job, and it always works out that way. The couple of years before, he had a big time team, and it didn't work out, and now this year, nobody's expecting anything out of him, and he's doing a good job.
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't matter what your schedule is when you're 9-1. That's what you are. So
yeah.
We'll see when they come to our place.
When we had Jamie Hayes on the show, he was saying, Pete asked him something, and I think he was talking about the kind of the split between the North and the South, and Jamie said something to the effect of before. I'm about to pat myself on the back here, but before New Hampshire Sports Page, he said we didn't really know anything about Colebrook. I mean, we knew they were good, but we didn't even know the name of the kids, and maybe we saw a box score, but we didn't really know any sort of analysis. We didn't know anything about Groveton, and I made a point a few years ago, my first year with this, 5-6 years ago, of surprised to hear. I had just come from a game where Mike Fitzpatrick and E.J. Perry at UNH were going play for play, where literally Fitzy was calling out what Salem was going to run for an out-of-bounds play to his kids. A couple days later, Mark Collins from Groveton, who's a fantastic coach, won like 6 championships. He was playing Newmarket, and he said something in the paper to the effect of, "Well, I know they've got the Williams kid and the Fitz kid." Like it was Curtis Williams and Mike Fitz. And I remember saying, "How the heck do you not know who's on this team?" And Coach Trask kind of talked to me and said, "Well, listen, when it's the North and the South, and I'll let you kind of expand on this, but he was sort of like, sometimes when you don't see the other teams and you're that far, you sort of say, I'm going to play our style. We're going to press you. We're going to pressure the ball. We're going to try to create turnovers, and if you beat us, I'll tip your hat." But has it changed a little bit in the last? You've been coaching for a long time. Has it changed the last 5 years where you sort of, okay, a little more? You probably can name 3 or 4 stars on Epping, where maybe you know what I mean? Does it change?
Number one, Mark knew who they had. So no, he doesn't.
Coaches
say very
always
much,
try and play dumb, don't
He
they?
took him to overtime, so he knew what he was doing.
Believe me, he knew who was there. And no, in the past, and I mean, when we have good teams, I make it a point to go see every team, and that involves a lot of late nights, heading south and then driving back to, to go to school the next day. But and we talk, so. And now it is a little easier because of your site, and there's some websites around that televise some games and stuff like that. So it's getting a little easier, but there's nothing like going and scouting. And if we become good enough, I might start going and scouting again. I told the kids, you'll be able to tell if I think we have something, because I'll start traveling.
Well, I remember last year in the quarterfinals, Pittsfield went to Littleton, and I remember Trevor, he's friends with Jamie Hayes. He reached out to Jamie and said, "Tell me about Pittsfield." And I know Jay Dara said, "Yeah, I asked Paul Greenlaw." I think it was Paul Greenlaw. He said, "I asked them about Littleton." How important is that for you? I mean, all these coaches.
No, each one of us has a couple of people from the South that'll help them out, and I get calls from them, and I'll tell them, I'll tell you about everybody but Groveton, because Mark and I are really close friends, and I won't divulge anything about them, But we all have a little networks too, and that was the case 10 years ago, But there's still nothing like going and seeing, and if you have good teams, you have to go and you have to watch them personally, I think, in order to get anything out of what needs to be done, because we all have our own different scouting systems and what we like to see and what we like to tell our kids, so to me, there's nothing better than watching people in person.
Do you even look at a team like Newmarket or an Epping or Derryfield until the playoffs roll around? I mean, or is it something that you got to try and do a little prep work just in case?
I usually get the schedule out at the beginning of the year, and I will see which games that I can go to, and and then I plan on doing that. As I said, the last couple of years, we probably haven't been a real serious contender, so I haven't really gone to scout. Now, if I have a couple more wins like last night, I might change my mind and try to, because I am down in this area on other things a lot, so I have chances to go and scout. So I'll probably, I'll start to look at the standings and figure out, who we might see and go from there.
We're not letting you get out of this one. 500. Do you have an accurate number? I mean, after last night, what is the number? I mean, Dave, I'm surprised you don't know the answer to this question.
I can figure.
But first of all, how long have you been coaching? I got an email from
somebody alerting me to it. You didn't tell me.
How long have you been coaching at Colebrook?
At Colebrook, I think this is year 30. This is year 33, and I had 4 in Stratford, so this is year 37.
All right, math challenged. A math challenge. So year 33.
Calculator.
What year would that take us back to? because I'm not going backwards trying to do math because I know I'm going to mess it up. But all I know is that I graduated from Nashua High School in 1988, and that's probably 25 years ago, I think. So that's longer. So that's early 80s.
Well, I graduated from Plymouth in 76. I went to Stratford for 4 years, and then Colebrook in 1980. So however many that is, that's what it is.
That's a lot of time.
That's
I remember a kid, and this I can't remember. I mean, I just remember this name, and perhaps you remember the name too. And he was a good player back then. I don't even know when it was, but there was a kid named Jason Waysville, and I think he might have been from Woodsville or something, or Fall Mountain.
I think it was more like Fall Mountain. I remember the name.
You remember the name?
Yeah.
I remember that he being a big player, and that had to be like sometime in the early 80s. I don't know. I just remember newspaper clippings and, reading that name, Jason Waysville. And there was probably a lot less teams playing. I mean, has it really grown, since, the 80s when you started coaching? Has the basketball playing schools kind of grown, or has it always kind of been?
No, actually.
It's dropped down?
Actually, it's starting to shrink a little bit. I mean, as I said, we've lost a couple of opponents. We've lost Stratford. And then Canaan and Pittsburgh got together this last year, so we lost another opponent. I think Division 4 is 20 teams right now.
Yeah.
And it used to be 24, 25. It always shrinks to or expands according to classification and stuff. But, it's as I said, it's getting tougher and tougher. We had the 2 trips. We only got 2 trips now, and everything else is hour and a half, 40-minute ride for us.
Which is crazy. I mean, you think of like a Division I coach, they complain about going to Keene, going to Spalding.
Well, I was just going to say,
our easy trips,
we talk about
trips are an hour and a half.
We talk about Berlin like every week. All right, and it's funny, like some coaches, no, it does, and then quietly on the side they go, oh, that trip kills us because the kids are just zoned out and they get, they're yawning when they get off the bus. But yeah, you are always coach at I've hung out with you at UNH because you go to the Final Four there for D1, D2. I've hung out with you at Southern New Hampshire, which is kind of the new venue, and they do a terrific job.
Great place.
I like something about all 3 of them. I think Southern New Hampshire does like the best game presentation and the statistic. My God, like real stats. And at UNH, it leaves a lot to be desired. But there's something I write about this. Something about like a Saturday afternoon Division 4 championship game. It's packed. I mean, there's a long line to get in, and there's something about a small town feel about that Plymouth gym. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Would you agree? I mean, I think it's one of the best venues when you're talking tournament.
Oh, basketball. I do too. When when the place is full and. As I said, it's always the whole town comes out, and that 5 minutes before the game starts, when everything's buzzing, that's, as I tell the kids, that's the best time.
Yeah.
And you've accomplished something, you've gotten there, and regardless of what happens, you're always going to remember that. So I'm kind of partial because I'm a Plymouth graduate, but I still like Plymouth. I mean. You're right. Southern New Hampshire does an exceptional job, but I still like our kids to go to Plymouth. I hope D4 always stays there.
Oh, I do. It just feels right.
Yeah, I've been to tournament games at Plymouth, and it is a fun atmosphere. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like the Southern New Hampshire University. I love going to UNH, but it is that small school feel,
and it's packed.
Yeah.
I remember Groveton, Littleton was like sold out. I mean, it was packed. I mean, it doesn't matter the size of the school. Last year, John was up there last year from Moulton Borough playing against Littleton. I mean, you really feel, because we are on that forum on our site, and it's been kind of nice. A lot of the guys on that forum say, Haley's always talking about D4. I got to go see a game. You feel like I remember seeing Pinkerton in the championship a couple years ago against Winnicott at UNH. Their student section wasn't even full. Again, we've ad nauseum told you how many students they have. But anyway, you really feel like the whole town when Moulton Borough won last year, the whole town had a parade at 4 in the afternoon in downtown Moulton Borough. Downtown Moulton Borough is the size of the studio, but I mean, it's pretty cool. I think it's great.
I think it's cool too. All right, we got to take a break. Come back more with Colebrook Academy head coach, athletic director Buddy Trask. I want to find out what he thinks. You said he goes to UNH and sees those games. Love to hear what you think about how the big boys play and the difference between the players that you see, the stars star players that you see in the upper divisions compared to Division 4 and Division 3. It is the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show on WGIR AM 610 and 96.7 The Wave.
Jakey Rose.
I'm trying to find the name. I knew it was David Lee Roth.
Oh, Jakey Rose. Steve Vai on guitar, as my man Adam Fierce knows very well.
We are heading up towards the top of the hour, wrapping up the show here, the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show. Very happy to have had live in-studio guest Buddy Trash from Colebrook Academy. Over 500 wins. Been doing it since 1980. I was 10 years old in 1980.
In 1980, a young rookie by the name of Larry Bird was just starting out for the Celtics, and Buddy Trask was coaching at Colebrook.
Did you ever coach any games against Dave Haley when he was playing for Guilford, or they were still in? They were in different divisions. They were class
They were
M.
up in the big time.
He would have thrown a boxing one on me all game long.
We were talking about having what's your coach?
Chip Veazey.
Chip Veazey on, who was still coaching at Guilford, and coached Dave Haley in high school. And you graduated what, 90?
1990. I played in a state championship game at Plymouth.
I can't wait to have that conversation.
I saw you play. I don't really remember. But I did see you play because I was there. I saw it.
I was the kid with the mullet who was hitting threes. There's a lot of us back then.
You had a mullet back then?
Oh, of course I did. Rocked it hard.
I'm going to show you. We're revamping the NH High School Hoop Show webpage. We got the webpage that's hasn't been changed since like June of last year.
Yeah.
Still's got me and Mark Baylor on there. So we're revamping it. I'll post a picture up there of me playing in my senior year of high school. I wasn't even good enough to make the national high team. I was like one of the last guys cut by George Nukas, who is now coaching prep school somewhere. I think New Hampton, maybe.
Somewhere.
But anyway, there's a picture of me in my CYO uniform, St. Aloysius, St. Al's, and down in Nashua. And when you see this picture, you're going to die laughing because I am a skinny rail.
Oh, we all were.
And it is just a hilarious picture with the little short shorts going on there. Hilarious stuff. But Coach, I wanted to ask you about when you go down to see the games at UNH, Division I, Division II, championship games, semifinals, whatever. When you're watching that skill and that caliber of play and those players, what's going through your mind when you compare it to what you have and what you see in Division IV and with your team?
Well, I mean, it's a different game entirely. The physical play in 1 and 2's so much different. They won't let us do the stuff that happens, and it comes down to how the game's officiated. Your guys out front in Divisions 1 and 2, they're all over the place with their hands, and when the shot goes up, the shooters are on the floor and stuff. You put your hand out in 4. Hand checking, so you got to play, you got to play with your feet, and you got to do that stuff. Whereas they let a lot more go in the upper levels, and there's various reasons I keep hearing as to why, but to me sometimes I think the basketball would be better if it wasn't as physical, but I'm not there, so I just watch.
No, I'm thinking about that style of play. I mean, with the northern officials up there, do you kind of recycle? Do you see like the same refs all the time, or? I have heard from unnamed coaches that there are certain refs where you see them in Colebrook or you see them in Groveton, you go, oh boy, we're gonna have a tough time getting calls tonight. But I mean, are you reciting? Not that would ever happen with your teams, sir. but does that happen where you kind of get the same officials?
Well, I mean, a lot of times, once again, just like everything else, there's not a whole lot of officials up there.
Yeah.
So. And out of the ones that are up there, there's obviously 4 or 5 you would like to see, and there are 4 or 5 real good officials up there, and they got tournament games, and I know there's some that do 2 and 1 tournament games, but yeah, I mean, you can't help but see them, because there's nobody else.
Yeah.
I mean, we have officials coming up from, Larry Frizzell was in Gorham last night, so he comes up for Dover. And Steve Rossetti's starting to do a little bit more of that. He'll get 2 guys to come.
He's still running that? Steve Rossetti's still the guy?
Yep. So you'll see some different ones once in a while. We get some people from Lebanon. We get people from, Hooksett, Manchester area that'll come up to Littleton and do games and stuff. So, but that's out of necessity too, because Friday night if you got 5 schools playing.
Well, I wonder because I know Littleton last year in the finals, that was an interestingly called game, and I know Trevor was just sort of like, you play 20-some-odd games, and then you get to the final, it's called completely different, and you don't know the officials.
Wow, that's what I said. They set more ball screens in that game than they did in the last 10 years because the officials let the Newmarket guys get up in them a little bit.
Yeah, and Marlboro.
And they weren't used to that.
Yeah.
All right, guys, it's all the time that we have for this hour. Buddy, I want to really thank you for coming down. I really appreciate it. I think it was a great hour to spend with you, and we certainly wish you and all those Division 4 coaches best of luck the rest of the way.
He even slips and says D1, even when he's not even when he's looking at you. He's getting better, though. We're very proud of him.
I also want to thank Tim Goodrich from Merrimack for coming on the program earlier, and obviously John Kesty for filming this thing. The video cast will be up on the website tomorrow for Dave Haley and Coach Trask, and also our tremendous producer Adam Furious. I'm Pete Terrier. Enjoy the weekend, everybody.